Now, what if I told you that there is a car manufacturer out there that has been making batteries for years and has just started producing cars several years ago? They've actually outsold Tesla. Now, Tesla Model Y is actually one of the world's best-selling EVs. In fact, it's actually one of the world's best-selling cars. But this brand, BYD, have outsold them around the other side of the world. So yes, this is the BYD Seal, and you might be wondering, what on earth does BYD even stand for? BYD actually stands for Build Your Dreams. Bit of a weird name. That's probably one of the reasons why they don't put it on their cars anymore, apart from one of them, which is the BYD Dolphin. That's a separate other car. But yes, this is the BYD Seal, and I've been using it for the past week just to kind of get my head around it and actually see what it's like. So question is it any good? Well, I've done loads of short journeys and long journeys this week, and I think I've got my head around the car. Now, for the all-round purpose of it, it's actually been really, really nice. The ride quality's been really good and quite surprising, considering it's obviously a brand that you may have never heard of before. Performance is really good as well. And also BYD have a very interesting way of packaging their cars, which I'll get onto like with their trims and packages in a minute. But yeah, for the whole kind of round of it, it's actually been really, really good. There have been a couple of teething problems which I didn't quite like, but I'll touch on those more in a minute. Now, as I have been using it over the past week, I've had so many people come up to me and ask me what this car is. Even today, while I've been filming, I've had people parking in this car park here and saying, oh, what is this car? Just because it is the brand that no one's really ever heard of before, just because it's been really popular around the world and obviously is starting to come out here. So when it comes to the actual exterior design, I actually quite like this, to be honest, because I think they've got the elements and light design quite right. There's a lot of curviness going on in this car, and you traditionally do find that on a lot of EVs anyway. But even with this coloured paint, along with the kind of black elements just beneath the windows, I think it's really smart. And of course, if you look at the rear of the car with the lights, they do have those kind of swooping indicators, just like a fair few manufacturers do these days. But yeah, although I'm not in the market for a saloon myself, just because I have a dog at home, so it's not that practical for me, if I was in the market for a saloon, I do quite dig the design. I think it's quite good. So what about dimensions? Well, dimensions for this one, length 4,800 millimeters, width 2,150 millimeters, and height 1,460 millimeters. Now, when it comes to price, trims and packages, this is a first for my channel. Now, normally when I cover a car, it could be a variety of different specifications, and you know what it's like when you go shopping for a car. You can find sometimes there might be a fully spec'd one or an entry-level one, and then you might not know. BYD do this a little bit differently. So in fact, we'll configure a car in a second and I'll show you how easy it is. There's two to choose from, and your choice of colour, of course. So there's the Design, which is £45,695, or the Excellence, which is £48,695. The Design is 354 miles, 5.9 seconds 0 to 62, and Excellence 323 miles, 3.8 seconds 0 to 62. That's kind of it. In fact, let me share with you how quickly it is to configure one. So yeah, BYD Seal Design, BYD Seal Excellence. The Excellence has all-wheel drive, so you choose between those two like that. So let's say, I don't know, that one. Then you go down and choose your colour. So any one of these, just like that. Then you go to your interior. You can choose either the blue Seal one or the black Seal one. I personally prefer the black. That's it. Everything else is included with the car. So there's no other options to choose. That is an interesting concept. Now, when it comes to the boot of the BYD Seal is 400 litres and electronic, which is good. So yeah, 400 litres in there. You can also fold the seat stand as well, which is, again, is obviously quite handy, because I know there have been some saloons years and years ago on some other manufacturers where you couldn't do that, so that wasn't the best. But yes, you can fold the seat stand in here. It is a 60-40 split, so not 40-20-40. There's also a bit of underfloor storage space under here. Currently that's where I've got the cables. And there's also a Frunk as well. And the Frunk has 53 litres of capacity, or fruit, depending on how you want to say it. 53 litres of capacity in there as well. So I probably personally put the charging cables there, because most of the time, I mean, I have a tethered cable at home, and then if you're going to charge DC, there's cables on those anyway, so I'd probably keep the cables in there. Although, one thing I would like to add is that in this bag, there is something rather interesting. And it's well, this. And this is a Type 2 connector to plugs. So you see where this is going? You can plug that into the car and then you've got plugs. So imagine if you're like, let's say camping, or maybe if you're camping in a tent or something, park your car next to your tent and then you have power. That's cool. Interesting. Anyway, let's take a look at the inside. All right guys, rear seats. So this is actually the first time I've sat in the back because obviously I've been driving this entire week and I am very, very comfortable in that driving position. So me being 6'2", long in the legs, shorter body, that set up for my position and sat behind myself. And yeah, I mean, I could move that further forward, but I do have good leg room. But in terms of everything else, headroom's good as well. I can get about 4 fingers above my head. Speaking of headroom, the actual sunroof here, you know how car manufacturers say, oh yeah, you can have an option for like panoramic sunroof. Obviously there are no options on this, everything is just kind of included, which is cool. But yeah, you do get this actual true panoramic sunroof. And this is panoramic. It is huge. Goes behind my head here, as you can see, and all the way to the front. The only negative thing I have to say about it is that there is no blind and there is no kind of switch to kind of make it so you can't see out of it. So it is heavily tinted though, I will add. You can clearly see with the kind of light, it is very, very heavily tinted, but yes, the sun will constantly shine through it. Now in terms of everything else, we have cup holders in here and a USB-C down there and a normal USB. So yeah, all round pretty good. So what about comfort and build quality? Well, comfort-wise, these are very much the same as the seats in the front. They've also got perforated holes on them, which is quite nice, and this kind of unique design. And I know BYD have mentioned about their ocean-inspired design. I'm not a huge fan of the colour of the seats. I'd rather they be black. And there is that option that we saw earlier on the configurator in the 10 seconds it took to configure one. But yeah, all round, pretty good. Last final point is build quality. So obviously this is kind of a important topic with cars a bit like this because it's a brand we've never heard of before. But it's no different to any others really. Kind of softer materials up here, this kind of like suede material there, same material on the seats on the door there, and then just kind of more evidence of plastics just underneath near the bottom, the kind of scratchy plastics, the ones you don't normally touch. And same for down there as well on the back. Actual seats as well on the back, they're not plastic, that's that kind of same material they use here. So all round pretty good. Right, let's have a look at the front, where there is a very interesting centerpiece. So yes, this is what it looks like at the front of a BYD Seal. Now this centerpiece I was talking about is the screen. Number one, it is huge. It's 15.6 inches across, which is insane for a car screen. In fact, I have connected up Apple CarPlay and used that this week in addition to the BYD's Multimedia System. Let's just say that I've never seen Apple CarPlay so big before, so it's very easy to access buttons on that front. Although I will get onto something negative about that in a minute that I don't like. But yeah, in terms of the actual screen size, it's huge. But that's not all. Look at this. You can spin it round. I bet you've not seen that in a car before. So yeah, if you fancied, you can have it vertical. Although I will add, Apple CarPlay forces you to have it horizontal. So if you do use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, it's going to spin it round automatically. But how cool is that? So for those of you shopping around trying to pick between a car with a landscape screen or a portrait screen, just get one of these because you can spin it round. And for those of you wondering, that's just another thing to go wrong. Actually, it is quite solid. It actually doesn't feel like it's going to move or easily break. So I guess BYD have put some clever engineering in that one. But yeah, look, spin it around. And although it sounds a bit gimmicky, actually, the more and more I use a portrait screen in the car, the more and more it makes sense because you're driving, obviously, forward, but you need to see further up the road, and you can see further up the road on the sat-nav, for example, when it's portrait, a bit like this here. So you can clearly see all the way in front of you, but of course if it's landscape, then you see more further left and right. So having a portrait screen does actually kind of make sense. So let's, before we go through the multimedia system, let's kind of have a look at the front of the car and the design of that point. Let's have a look at the materials. So basically in the front here is kind of exactly the same as in the back. So leathery material up there, then the kind of suede material there, and plastic down towards the bottom. So kind of exactly the same as in the back. Then we've got some kind of storage in here, which is quite deep, goes all the way down, which is handy. 2 cup holders there, which is also good. Then there's wireless charging there as well, which is handy. And then there's also a bit of underfloor storage space. One thing I don't like about that underfloor storage space is because what I have to do here, right underneath there, there's USB-C port and a USB port and a 12-volt socket. But you literally can't see them. I think the passenger might be able to see them a bit easier, but yeah, I have to do this to actually look at them, which if you're trying to plug something in, it was actually quite tricky because you couldn't see it. But there again, first world problems, once it's plugged in, you probably don't need to unplug it. So unless you're always plugging it in every day, you can't really see it. You kind of have to get like right underneath to see it, but other than that, that's all good. Then we come on to this arrangement of buttons down here. Now there's a gear stick in the middle. I know we still call it a gear stick even though it's an electric car, but drive selector, volume and P for park and hazards and driving mode and that sort of thing. So all around pretty good. And there's a couple of extra things up there with some safety systems and an auto hold feature. So glove box, again, nice size on that one. So all good on there. I think now's the time to go through the multimedia system. So let's close that back up and have a look at this. So as I mentioned, this multimedia system screen is huge, you know, just kind of laptop size screen. It's one of the biggest kind of screens I think I've seen in the car. There's only a couple of manufacturers out there that are very similar size. Actually, might seem quite overkill, but actually when you're navigating places on the sat-nav, it's very easy to read. So good on that front. Now, I personally use Apple CarPlay quite a lot, so when Apple CarPlay is loaded up, it kind of looks like this. So yeah, huge, very easy to use. Now, the negative that I don't like about this kind of setup is a lot of car manufacturers these days, they put climate control and stuff on the screen, which is fine, because if you're using the BYD interface, the climate control is just down here, and of course then you can adjust all the AC controls here and turn it all on. I've got it off at the moment. But let's turn it on and set it at 22 degrees, just like that there, and just make sure the fan's down low. And say you're using Apple CarPlay. There is no easy way to change the climate control. So count how many steps this is while you're driving, which isn't that safe. 1 step, 2 steps, adjust it, and then to get back to CarPlay, down here, no, it's not even on that screen. It's that screen, and then you're there. Oh, in fact, no, I'd take that back. There was a shortcut up here, you could have pressed that. But that's what I mean, it's a bit cluttered. So if you're using Apple CarPlay, as brilliant as that screen is, I love that, because that is huge and very easy to use, and yeah, definitely the best Apple CarPlay experience I've ever seen. But to adjust the climate control is not that good. It's funny actually, because I've reviewed a few car manufacturers before where they take up various different elements of space around the side for the climate control. But in this one, the opposite's happened, where they give you all Apple CarPlay, but it actually means you can't adjust the climate control. So not good on that front. However, you can turn it on and off down here, which is pretty good, but no easy controls on this screen to adjust it. But that's of course if you use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. If you don't, and you just use the car's multimedia system, then of course it's easy to access down here, and no matter what you're on, say you're on the home screen here, you can adjust it down here like that. So that's good. It's just if you're using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you may come across that hurdle. So what about BYD's multimedia system? Well, it's quite interesting because there's a couple of tabs. There's this one here, which I quite like actually. It's the most simplified format. You have your sat-nav here, music in the middle, of course radio over there on the right hand side. And sat-nav, easy to use. You go on here, it'll show you a map like this, and then you search on the top right hand side there, type in on here where you want to go, and hit go, and it loads up. I'm not sure what maps they use, but it looks as good as Google Maps and certainly got me to my long destination that I used the other day, so that was pretty good. And then to cancel it, cross on the top. So pretty easy on that front. And if you swipe this way, this will bring up all the other apps. Now there is a voice assistant in the car. I couldn't get it to do loads of things, but it is kind of like a simplified one. So if you do want your voice assistant to do more, then maybe use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Phone there, radio, music, Spotify built into the car, which is quite handy, and then a few other kind of settings and things down there which might be useful to a few people. And there was also another page with a few extra things on there, Android Auto, just like that. Oh, and I should add as well, as this is an EV, this is particularly important. If you do need to search for charge points, you can go up here to the top and it will search for all of the EV chargers nearby, which is quite handy. So all round, a fairly decent multimedia system, big screen, love the screen, and I do like the ability you can spin it around. Although for me, I personally like Apple CarPlay, so unfortunately it'll probably be landscape most of the time for me. So what about the steering wheel? You'll be pleased to know that the buttons on here are actual buttons, they're not touch buttons, so none of that stuff. The only thing is that they're kind of like, there's not really a design reason for why they're in a certain place, they're kind of all over the place. So you've got buttons on the left hand side that do driving things here, and then on the right hand side you've got things that do over there and stuff here. So they're not really kind of categorized depending on the side of the steering wheel to what screen it's doing, if that makes sense. So these ones here, for example, you can press this and control various different things over here and view things on the screen, just like this. But then the left-hand side is how you can control that screen, but then there's also driving elements there for this screen. So yeah, interesting design for the buttons there. So, what's it like to drive? Well, having used it literally for the past week, I've got to say I'm actually more impressed with it than I thought I was going to be. It's certainly very smooth and can easily eat up the miles. Seats are super comfy as well. They're very, very supportive on the sides, so yeah, pretty good. Actual ride comfort is very, very good. Suspension's good, so the seats are good as well. Performance is really good as well. So yeah, it actually took me by surprise, this car. Now, for those of you that have a beady eye and spot the smallest of things, you'll notice that the indicators on this particular car are on the right-hand side. So yes, they're normally on the left, and that's kind of instinctive nature after a while. But yeah, when you jump in this, the indicators are actually over this side. Now, I have been reassured that from BYD that they stated that these pre-production seals, so these cars, have them the wrong way round. Obviously, I'm guessing they probably have them this way round, around the other side of the world. I've not actually been round that side of the world, so I don't know. So maybe let me know in the comments if you know that fact for sure. But yeah, apparently they will be the correct way round if you order one. At the moment, these are the wipers and those are the indicators. And yeah, literally up is left and down is right indicator, which is a bit odd because it's the other way around on the other side. But anyway, I have been reassured that if you order one, they're the correct way around. So please excuse me while I get used to these indicators, although I think I have mastered it now from having used it for the past week. Now, before we do the high-speed test, the launch up the road, I just wanted to talk about some of the tech that is in this car. And this is not tech that you kind of see here, this is tech kind of what's underneath. Now, as I mentioned with the different trims earlier, BYD have been making batteries for almost 30 years, so they know how to make a good battery. And they don't actually use lithium-ion batteries, they use a different type of battery which actually doesn't contain any cobalt or anything. So again, interesting stance, because these different types of batteries that they use are called a blade battery, and traditionally with any lithium-ion battery, funny enough, the battery that's powering this camera right now, not that you should do this, but if you had pierced the battery, and this even applies to phone batteries as well, they can be quite dangerous. They can spontaneously combust, and that's just what lithium-ion batteries are like. Now, that's not putting a damper on all EVs out there. They're actually very, very safe and encased in very strong materials, but they've done lots of tests with their kind of blade battery and even piercing them and that sort of thing, and they go through a lot of rigorous testing and that sort of thing on their batteries. So they've been making batteries for years, and it's interesting because a few other manufacturers have started to almost do the same kind of battery tech. So yeah, BYD have been making batteries for years, but they've just started to bring out cars just like this. And you know, they've got BYD Atto 3, I think it's called, and then the BYD Dolphin, and this is the BYD Seal. For their third car, it's pretty good. And no car manufacturer is perfect. Of course, you've got that Apple CarPlay with the whole climate control thing. A software update could fix that. And that's just me being really picky with climate control and accessing functions that, you know, I want to have access to when I'm driving. But they also include in the standard specification as well a heat pump. Now, not many EV manufacturers do this, some of the good ones do, but a heat pump basically means that your use of climate control, air conditioning or heating is a lot more energy efficient. So similar to the heat pumps that you can actually have installed to replace a boiler at home, but there's one kind of built into this that just kind of works. Right, high-speed test. Now, BYD also have these different drive modes, so let me make sure this is in a sport mode, which would be that one there. Red on the screen for angry. And yeah, let's, oh, here we go, we're going. It's so responsive. Oh God, 60 already. Now I know it's not all about the 0 to 62s, but it's, yeah, put it in sport mode, it makes the throttle extremely responsive. Now there is a lot of info on this display. This is one thing I wanted to mention earlier actually. On the left hand side here you see kilowatts, and it's constantly changing. And the reason for this is because as you go to accelerate, you're using more kilowatts of power, but you don't really need to see that so much. It can be confused sometimes with your speed, and obviously if it says 11 at the moment, you put your foot down, suddenly it says you're doing 180, but you're not doing 180 miles an hour, you're using 180 kilowatts of power. It's just, I wish you could change that. Again, that could be changed with the software update potentially. I wish you could have the ability to change things and make the speed over there on the right a little bit more prominent. As I said, when I did those long journeys, you know, earlier over this past week, it's been quite nice. Okay, let's see how powerful this car is. There's 60. That's quick. Very, very quick. So guys, I'm curious, would you consider this car for your first EV, or maybe you're looking at this and thinking, interesting to have all the gadgets and everything included in one price. But yeah, it's an interesting concept. But guys, I'm curious, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And I think right here is a good place to end. So thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and of course, if you enjoyed what you saw, let me know in the comment section down below. But thank you so much for watching, guys. See you soon.